Welcome to the tutorial. The target for this tutorial is to just a demonstration of using the properties files or the resource bundles in struts and how to use them for internationalization. I think the application that will support multiple languages or multiple countries. Also how to use these properties files or the resource files to change the messages easily. I think for the web pages you may need to update the messages if required. Then other than changing in the programming, you can just modify the properties files and just restart the web server, so the web page content and messages will be changed. Okay, what we are doing, maybe I can show you just an example, the application we will develop in this tutorial. So it's already installed in my computer. It is a user registration process. So here we see that this term registration is there, and this first name, last name, email address, these are not fixed or completely fixed for this web page. These are actually coming from the properties files. For those who don't know what properties files are, actually property files contain some key and value pairs, some key and the corresponding value, and in the web pages you just mention the key and the web page grabs the values from there. So if you change the just only the properties file, not the web page, still the web page will display the updated values. Anyway, let's see what this application does. Test email address 45@we.com. So it just display registration success and the user provided inputs, it is also displaying it. But what we actually will show here is that it is using properties file in the backend and it supports internationalization. Okay, just change the language for this, move up. So Spanish is now the default language for this browser. So if I just reload, okay, this is the Spanish. So if I reload, okay, let me see. Okay, now you see the same web page. It's now showing these things in the Spanish language. Actually these messages are actually coming from the properties files, and this web page, this I think it's a registration.jsp web page. It actually contains just the keys for this corresponding values, corresponding levels, and based on the current browser language it is automatically changed. Actually what happens is, for each of the language we have to support, we create a properties file, and for all the keys we provide values. So based on the language it goes to the right property file and brings those values. So if I change the language to English again, are in English. So let me change it to Spanish again. Okay, now it's Spanish. So I'm giving some values for this. So here you also see that these are also coming in Spanish. So in this tutorial we will actually show how we can handle this. Okay, let me go to Eclipse. In the meantime, actually, if you understand this example, maybe it could be better if you consult all the other tutorials, struts tutorials as provided in our website. So this is the example that we displayed. So these are the resource files. I think it is in Spanish. So this is the key and this is the value. This is the key, this is the value. I think this is the heading for the web page. So first name, last name we see here, and this is in French, all the key and values, and this is in English, or the default one will go from here. So this is from where the message is going to the web pages. And now see how things work actually. So I'm gonna change the language to English again. Okay, so this is actually, I think I can show you here. You know that in struts application under web.inf there is a web.xml file from where is the welcome file. We see that forms register.jsp. So this is the first file and this is this file. So we see that this is the root of the example. So forms register.jsp. So you see that here we have defined the form. I think the form you see here is actually defined here, HTML form, HTML form. The syntax, this is actually JSP style syntax, it is not the pure HTML style syntax. And starting of HTML form, I think this form, ending of this form, and these are different controls. See, we are using pin message just to display some messages, and we are using key, first name, So this is for this one, and actually this is HTML text. This is the text box, and this is the submit button. So the key point here is, for each of these labels, first name, last name, email address, we did not use it directly here, directly first name or last name. Rather, we used a key, and we used the bin message tag that translates this key into the corresponding value. And as I told, these values are coming from these resource files. Resource files are usually kept in the web.inf classes folder. And another thing is, to be able to use these tags, you have to load this tag library, bin tag library, and the prefix is bin. So after that you are able to use this tags here. So the title, it is also coming from the properties file. So all the labels, everything is coming from the properties files. Now we see that first the control is coming to web.xml, so it says that forms register.jsp is the starting file, so it goes there. And we see that register.jsp, this is using many different keys. Those will be translated using the resource files. Now how do the application will know that there are resource files and they have to make use of these things? Actually those are defined in struts config file, and I think in web.xml file you know that there are some configurations. I think in our previous examples we demonstrated those things, so we can better check the struts config file, web.inf, and then struts config. Okay, so in struts config file, here we see that we are telling this message resources, parameter message resources. So this is the predefined tag in struts to load the resource files, and it is telling the name of the resource files. So if you check, these are the message resources dot properties, default extensions for this, and this is also a default style to put a underscore, and the language or local shortcode that we use here. And this is some significance, null equals to false. This does mean that if the key we have used in register.jsp, if this key is missing in these properties files, how things will be treated. Actually null equals to false, it tells that if some key is missing, then a warning message will be displayed. But if you would be telling null equals to true, in that case for the missing keys, it would be just ignored. So this is what is here, and this is the main thing actually here, just regarding the resource files, how to use these things. And also I think in this tutorial something is also new from the as examples. Just say that in register.jsp we have defined the form in a special way, not the traditional HTML form. So this is actually called form beans in struts, and actually when you define these things here, you also have to define a corresponding stubs in the struts config file, and you see that we are giving property. This is actually the HTML equivalent of ID and name for this control, and in struts config we see that there is a forms beans. So the name of the form bean is this, and there will be a corresponding class to represent this form. This is registration form bean. Actually by declaring forms like this and using them in form beans, we can maintain the states in the JSP pages, and the message is propagated using some default beans that facilitates the application development. Okay, so we are telling that for this form there is a class. We defined all of the classes in webinf, src, net, just etc. So okay, this is the form. We see that for each of the form component, or we also have a variable, first name, last name, email address, and corresponding getter and setter methods, and you see all are private. And you know that after declaring the variables here, you can just go to source, generate getters and setters. You can do it automatically just after declaring the variables. Okay, I think in some examples I can demonstrate how this kind of form declaration can handle the state management. I think if we go back, I think the values are still there. This is one thing, the states are maintained. Also actually here you see that we are extending action form. Actually there are different kind of action form. I think dynamic action form, din action form, that actually is good if we want to validate this the user inputs, validate, and if there is some wrong we can show the corresponding error messages in the top or just underneath each control, or highlight these labels. I think in declaring forms like this and then defining corresponding form in here and creating the corresponding classes, it facilitates those things. I think in some example I can try to show in future. So here what we see is that in the action you are telling it is going to actions register. So we have to define this in struts config. So we see actions register, it's actually type register action type. So you see that net just it is register action.java. So I think this class will handle what will happen after clicking this register me button. So it is telling this type and the name, this name, and the scope is request. We are telling that after clicking the submit me button, register me button, for forward string success, it will go to confirm registration.jsp, and we can see how this registration action working. It is just returning mapping.findForward success, just by default it's sending success. So from the struts config it is getting success and it is going to confirm registration.jsp. So it's webinf results, confirm registration. Here also we see that we are using bean message to display the messages. So we have loaded this tag library, and also we are using the keys to display the labels in the next page. I think this is first name, last name, email address, and we are using another tag bean write to display these messages. And one thing you notice that as we have declared the bean registration bean for the corresponding form here, the states are maintained in the bean, and we are just displaying here the corresponding value of the bean. So this is the advantage of using the form bean. I think this is mostly all that is required. So what we have learned here is creating bean representing the request data. I think that we have done here, not here, here, and corresponding here. I think this is good enough for understanding, and you know that these are providing the internationalization support. Now how can you write this program, or step by step how you can do it? Maybe initially you can start with our starts blank application. There's the basic application, and then first you can write this register.jsp and the corresponding properties files, and after that you can modify the struts config and define the form bean, define the action mappings, and then you can load the facilitate to load the properties files. And after that you can write these classes, just registration action and registration form bean, and finally you need to write this confirm registration.jsp. Okay, we also have provided an AND file. By default it will be doing compile, var, and deploy. Just right click, run as, and build. So compiling successful, var file creation successful, and deployment successful. Okay, you can do it deployment like this, or you can just copy your total struts messages folder and put it under the web apps directory in Tomcat. And actually when you deploy, you really don't need to deploy this src folder, because they will be always compiled and the corresponding classes will be created under classes. Actually you see that this compile, we are telling source directory, and we are using the javac command, java compilation command, and the class files will be going to the destination directory. And we also have defined source directory and destination directory here, source directory, and build directory is the destination directory. And we also have provided some other files like var file, this var file name, var file name, and to create the var file we are using the var command. And we're just telling here which files to include, which files to exclude. And for the deployment we are actually copying the var file, current directory var file, into the destination deploy directory. So from here we see that deployment directory goes to under Tomcat Home web applications. So Tomcat Homes is the environment Catalina Home, and you know that we showed that we set Catalina Home to the installation folder of Tomcat. I think that should be it. I will be providing the source code and this video tutorial in my website. I hope this will help.